Testing procedure. Rain test. The purpose of this test is to verify the adequacy of an enclosure to shield bare live parts from quantities of water in the event of exposure to rain. Safety precautions. For this test, implement all normal lab safety precautions. This test should be performed away from other equipment. The EUT shall be de-energized for the duration of the test. Ensure the test is performed where there are adequate facilities to drain the water from the floor. Since the floor may become slippery, adequate non-slip footwear should be considered. Test apparatus. To complete this test successfully, you will need the ESAFE rain test apparatus. This apparatus has at least 3 spray heads mounted in a water supply pipe rack and constructed in accordance with Clause 8.3 of CAN CSA 22.2, number 94.2. You will also need 3 pressure gauges, check the verification due date mounted on the apparatus, as well as a timer. A cell phone is an acceptable timekeeping instrument for these purposes. Water supply and a hose with a 3/4 inch nozzle attachment. Assembly of the test apparatus. Open the case, unfasten the straps, and lay out the test apparatus parts. Note where the parts go. You can take a photo of the open case to help you return the parts to their appropriate position after the test. Remove the tripod from the case and set it on the floor. Remove the hex nut from the top of the tripod. Install the bracket onto the tripod with the hex nut. Insert the screw and wing nut through the hole of the tripod. Tighten the hex nut until just snug. Do not over-tighten. Start assembling the parts. First, add 4 to 6 turns of Teflon tape to each side of the threaded pipe fittings. Once all the fittings are done, add 4 to 6 turns of Teflon tape to each of the UL spray heads and set them aside. Then add 4 to 6 turns of Teflon tape to each of the 3 pressure gauges and set them aside. Assemble the 2 main pipes so that the fittings, except for the hose adapter, all point upwards. Position the main pipe on the L-shaped bracket on the tripod. Note that the hose fitting should point away from the bracket as shown. Use at least 3 tie wraps to secure the pipe to the bracket, 1 at each end and 1 around the center of the pipe. Assemble each of the short pipes to each of the valved pipes and install the UL spray heads at the end of the short pipes. Thread each arm into the main pipe, being careful to not use excessive twisting force. Use the wrench provided in the test apparatus kit. Install gauges. Do not use the gauge body to thread the gauges. This will damage them. Only use the wrench provided in the test apparatus kit. Measure the distance between the pipe using the apparatus drawings and adjust the space between each spray head and the 90-degree fitting in the center pipe. When adjusting the pipe, be careful not to use excessive twisting force. Use the wrench provided in the test apparatus kit if necessary. The completely assembled test apparatus should look like the photos in the kit. Install the hose. Ensure the valves are in the closed position and turn on the water supply. Adjust the pressure by opening valves one at a time. The water pressure must be maintained at 34.5 kPa, 5 psi at each spray head. Once all spray heads show 5 psi, the setup is complete and you are ready for the test. Bring in the EUT. Test sample. This test requires a sample of the complete enclosure. Please note, the unit should not be energized. When testing a large apparatus with limited equipment or water supply, the water spray must be applied to the apparatus in stages or areas. The water spray only needs to be applied in a particular area where water is most likely to enter. Test setup and procedure. In-service check. Verify the correct pressures can be obtained from the nozzles before performing the test. Test. Place equipment in the correct configuration. Position the enclosure in the focal area of the spray heads so that the greatest quantity of water is likely to enter the enclosure. The distance between the center nozzle and the complete enclosure should be approximately 1.5 meters and the spray directed at an angle of 45 degrees toward the louvers or other openings nearest current-carrying parts. Apply continuous water spray for 1 hour. After 1 hour, stop the supply of water. Wipe down the EUT with paper towels, then carefully open it up to observe whether water has entered the enclosure. Include the observations in your evaluation report. Record the instrumentation, serial numbers, and calibration due dates used during the test, test apparatus, pressure gauges, phone for timing, etc. in the evaluation report. Acceptance criteria. For the test to be considered successful, appreciable quantities of water must not enter the enclosure during the rain test. Any water that does enter should not encounter bare live parts within the enclosure and must have a way to drain out.